So a few people have asked me to talk about this whole idea of Calendly and how that impacts your efforts to connect with your customers. So I have a couple thoughts on this, and it's not just a blanket no, because of course there are always good utilizations of tools like Calendly. So I'm talking about any sort of scheduling tool. You clearly will see people listing these links on their email signatures where they're like, find time to talk to me, all of that. So let's go through a few of these tips on this kind of system and if it is good for your business or not. So for all of us in recruitment, there is obviously this issue of scheduling. Scheduling is a pain in the butt because you usually have to go back and forth. Like, when are you available? Oh, when are they available? So there's a couple different stages where Calendly comes into play. Let's go through the initial stage, and really what I want to focus on is using the Calendly link in email signatures solely. Obviously, I think Calendly is a wonderful tool for interview scheduling, right? Like, if a candidate is available, they should go onto the client's Calendly, like the Calendly details will be sent to us, or the client will say, hey, please have the candidate schedule themselves. That is awesome. That's great. But what's annoying is that sometimes even that can be problematic when the client then has something change on their schedule, and it just makes the candidate feel like, is this a dynamic that I'm going to have with my future employer? That they're just going to try to automate me, right? So there's that thought, there's a little bit of sensitivity there because it's still a relatively new tool where it's not completely mainstream yet. So it's kind of annoying if things go wrong. If things don't go wrong, then it's totally fine. If things don't go wrong, then it's a wonderful tool. But if the client then changes and they're like, oh, I can't make this time, then it becomes this extra leg of effort and extra step. So I don't know, but you can argue then that happens with or without Calendly. But at least without Calendly, there's that human touch where I can get involved as the headhunter, or the client can kind of pin a note to the candidate and they can reschedule. All in all, I just think it's this extra step that I don't really know truly saves that much more time or adds value in case things go wrong. If the client is perfect and their schedule is absolutely perfect, then of course it's a non-issue and it's actually wonderful. But let's talk a little bit more about this whole idea of having Calendly in people's email signatures, because this is happening a lot now. I kind of find it ridiculous that if you are a prospector, like you're trying to get new clients, you should not make these new clients that you're trying to get, you should not make them use your Calendly. That comes off super, super pedantic. Keep in mind, if you are a provider of services, you kind of have to suck up to the client if they're completely new. You don't even know this person. You're trying to earn their business. And the first thing you tell them is, make yourself available on my calendar. How does that feel? How does that look? Is that what you'd be speaking? If Bill Gates came up to you, would you say, Bill Gates, here you go, here's my Calendly, bitch? I don't think so. I just don't think that's how it's going to work. There's this power dynamic that just isn't very pleasant when a prospector who relatively is a nobody, right? Most of these prospectors are nobody, and they're trying to sell you something that you don't even know about, and then it's schedule yourself. I just don't know how that comes off, and the times that that's come off for me, I found it off-putting. I found it really off-putting when they're like, okay, great, here's my Calendly. Very, very lazy. Very lazy sales, I'll tell you that much. So when I try to schedule things with candidates, I always look at my calendar real time and I prompt them. I don't go, here's my Calendly, because here's another thing. Here's my Calendly is very passive, right? Especially if I'm trying to talk to a candidate. Now, I've seen people actually do this. This is a terrible recruiting mistake. If you are a recruiter and you got a candidate who you've been trying to get for a while, and you're like, yeah, I can't wait to talk to this person. Here's my Calendly. They're not going to book themselves. That's a very passive move. They're not going to book themselves. They're just going to be like, I may or may not respond to this. If you say to them, hey, I'm free Monday from this time and Tuesday from that time, they actually may respond to you and actually might and say, hey, yeah, sure, absolutely. Because that's what? All your other lazy competitors are using Calendly. All your lazy competitors are telling candidates, maybe even clients if they're so crazy, to be like, oh, here's my Calendly. Go and sign up on it. and then you're the recruiter that doesn't do that? Yes, you might argue, wow, you're so old school. You're a goddamn old millennial. I don't think this has to do with millennial versus Gen Z versus Gen Y or X or whatever have you. I think this is just common sense business. If you're trying to earn somebody's business, act like you actually want to earn it instead of being obliged to go to work, right? Because here's my Calendly says to me, I'm lazy. I don't really care. Like, just fucking book yourself. That's what that tells me. It doesn't tell me, hey, I want your business. I need to talk to you. Here are the times I'm available. When are you free? It's a totally different message. So that's what I have to say. And then lastly, if you have this Calendly link on your email and you're giving this to random people, you're going to waste a lot of your own time. So please don't do that. That doesn't help yourself. You don't want randos having access to your calendar. A Calendly link, if you have it, should be even a private link because it literally has your whole entire schedule on there. And obviously, another downside with Calendly, oh my God, there's so many downsides. Another downside with Calendly is that it makes you look ultra available. This is not a good thing if you're trying to be an exclusive provider of services, right? If there's like a bunch of availabilities, it just tells me you're not very busy. So that's another problem. I could go on and on. There's so many drawbacks if you really peel back the curtain. So I like business the old school way. I think a high touch service is what headhunting is. Recruitment is a high touch white glove service. So if you can't even bother to ask your clients and candidates when they're available to speak, and you instead try to have them book themselves, you're going to be waiting a lot of time for business.